Hello guys, Chris here and welcome to episode 29 of the Pocket Podcast. Today I have my good friends Jordan and Zac Stenmark on the show. A little bit of backstory about these guys. These guys are some of the biggest male models in the world. They are twins and they're also one of my best friends, or some of my best friends rather. When I was living in Bondi, we would go to our favorite cafe, the Depot, almost every single morning at 8 a.m. and just have these deep conversations for sometimes even hours on end. I could speak to these guys for 10 hours straight without a worry, and we've probably done that at times. This was an awesome episode. They actually unpacked things that I didn't even know about, different things from them being bullied as young kids and the different challenges they had when being dyslexic as kids and how that shaped them to who they are today. I learned a lot, and I also just love speaking to these guys. It flowed. They bounce off each other. You can tell they're twins. There's a lot of energy in the room, and their vibe is amazing. So I cannot wait for you guys to listen to this episode. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the episode with Jordan and Zac. But just before we get into this conversation with Jordan and Zac, we need to take a minute to thank our sponsors of the podcast, Switch Nutrition. Now, you're either living under a rock or you would know that I've been speaking about these guys ever since the very, very beginning. And that's because I absolutely love their products. More specifically, I want to talk about these three in my hands right now: the Hydrate, the Adrenal, and the Collagen. This kind of encompasses foundational health because there's so many different supplements online and different people telling you this and that. But I love to strip it right back to the basics. And what are the foundations that we need to be doing every single day to make sure we are looking after that side of our health? And these three products tick the boxes for me. The Hydrate, first thing in the morning to keep me hydrated, energized. Adrenal, the last thing I do just before bed so I can sleep like a baby. And then the Collagen I have in my yogurt bowls every single day. These are my favorite. And if you want to try out any of Switch Nutrition's products, you can go to the link in the description of the show notes below. And that is my collections page, which has all the products that I take and love every single day. Or you can go to switchnutrition.com.au and use the code Chris Griffin at checkout and you'll get 20% off your entire order. Once again, switchnutrition.com.au and use the code Chris Griffin at checkout and you'll get 20% off your entire order. I'm going to shut up. Let's dive straight into the episode with Jordan and Zac. I feel like we could talk for hours.
I mean, we have. We have spoken for hours.
We've already spoken for hours. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Jordan, Zac, I wonder if the people that are listening are going to, by the end of this conversation, even understand who's who. Because something that's really interesting about twins, and I learned this recently because I was actually living with some twins in the Gold Coast, and you don't know the difference, but then when you know them, you can't forget it. Is that like a thing that you've noticed in terms of like you growing up, you start to meet people, they always get your names confused, but then there's like some sort of moment or day that just happens and then they never forget, they never get it confused?
There is this I think there definitely is a moment. I mean, the funny thing is so many people say, oh, your voices are so the same. And then the people who know us go, you guys don't sound the same at all. And it's something that we get all the time. But I think those moments where it's almost this, there is an undescribable nature to people figuring it out. But then, yeah, they say, I've seen, I couldn't even see you as the same person. I would say it comes down to personality because the vast personality differences, we are very similar, as you know. We are very similar human beings, but there is some really, really interesting differences between Zac and I. And our father always talks about the yin and yang approach to us as twins, and twins have that kind of symbiotic relationship where one is up and one is down and you support each other, and one has certain strengths and the other one develops certain strengths. It's we used to play basketball against each other. And so I had to develop more of a guard game and he developed more of a big man game, and that's how we learned to win. And so I think as people get to know those things about us, that's when they go, oh no, Jordan is exactly like, everyone knows Jordan's like this, or Zac is exactly like this. So it's bad. It's a bad joke. You know how people know? is my dad jokes.
Dad
Yeah,
joke.
that's the dad
As soon
joke.
as you said that, I was like, that's a Jordan thing to say. No, it's so cool. And before the show, I got both of you guys to write down a quote for me, something that you guys loved. It was something that came to mind straight away. What we're going to do is we'll talk about Jordan's quote first, and then we'll bring yours up a little bit later on in the conversation. But Jordan, you wrote, "Pressure is a privilege." Talk to me about that quote, man, and what that means to you.
So Maria Sharapova actually said this quote years and years ago, but it was also reappropriated from someone else. But what pressure is a privilege means to me is it taught me that when I was a younger person, I used to think pressure was a bad thing. You got put into situations of pressure and you were like, oh no, I'm under pressure. But really, in the quote, it says pressure is a privilege. To be privileged by something is to be honored, to receive something that is of value. And so for me, I had to change my perception of pressure and go, actually, if I've been chosen to be put in this circumstance, I've also worked hard enough to be put in this circumstance, and it's an opportunity for greatness. Like, it's my opportunity, my privilege to try and, do something greater or fulfill the idea of me that other people see that I am. And so, you get put in these scenarios throughout your whole life where you feel this essence of pressure. One can look at it and go, I'm going to crumble because it's so terrifying. Or you can go, wow, what an opportunity I have here to do something amazing or do something I never thought I could do or be better than I thought I could be. So that was changing that perception on pressure was a massive one for me.
And then I guess where pressure is, that typically means it might be harder than what isn't pressure, what isn't filled with pressure. And then through the challenge is where you grow. So it's kind of more pressure, more character building.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because I was going to say our grandfather, he used to, was a very good golfer. And the way he would train to be better at chipping was he would put a glass in the middle of their china cabinet, and he would chip in and the china cabinet's full of all their most precious china, and he would chip into the china cabinet and land it right in there without breaking anything to create this illusion of pressure. Because it wasn't an illusion. Well, our grandmother would have been really pissed off.
Yeah.
But he wanted more and more pressure. He was actually thriving on creating that circumstance so that when he got into other circumstances in life, it's no pressure.
Too much money.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I don't think so.
I was like, wow.
They were, in Wagga, he's a country guy from Wagga. So if the china was broken, the china was broken. It was done. Yeah. To the point on pressure for privilege is actually a quote my little brother really loves, which is we fall to the level of our practice. Or the quality of our practice. So in pressure situations, we fall to the level of our practice. To Zac's point around our grandfather, you have to put yourself in lots of pressured situations or simulated pressure so you can fall to the level of how you practiced. And, when you look at NBA players who practice and they say, I practice at game speed, or a 100-meter runner, let's say, Fred Curley, no offense, Noah Lyles, but, not sure about your approach. But Fred Curley will, attack would train at race speed. And I think that's to the point here is when we're talking about pressure and we're talking about falling back on our practice. Like, I think how we use pressure, how we perceive pressure is really, really important.
There's so many different things with pressure though as well, because if you give yourself 4 hours to do something, you'll probably take 4 hours. But if you're under pressure and you've only got 60 minutes to do it, you probably get it done.
False deadlines. They're so important. Like, we do it in all of our business, in everything. That was something our dad taught us so much, was like, you got to create deadlines and make them real for yourself. Obviously, you know that it's a false deadline, but you need to create the weight in the situation, because otherwise, like, you may not get it done, and they're so useful to have. So.
And then going back onto that pressure, well, we've been talking about pressure the whole time, but pressure is your perceived value of pressure is only relative to what you've experienced in the past in terms of pressure. It's the same with hard, right?
Yeah.
Hard's only relative to what you've experienced in the past.
Yeah.
So the more pressure you put yourself under, the more able and capable you are of being under pressure, which means you can put yourself through more pressure easier, and then you can grow.
Yeah. So, and I guess what is the point of putting yourself under pressure? Like, it then comes down to figuring out what you want as a human, because lots of people can coast through life and be happy to, and they're some of the happiest characters in the world because for them, they go, I'm doing this. These my goals are a bit more fluid. But if you choose to be someone that wants a lot more out of their existence, which is I want to change what I've come from, or I want to be as more than what I can be. It's fine to either be one or the other. There's really driven characters out there. We may fit in that category. And there's other people who are, very happy doing what they like to do. But the point is, how is pressure used as a tool in this scenario? And I think to your point, do you continue to push forward what is hard and what feels like pressure? I think is something that one needs to make a choice on, but two needs to understand maybe there's sometimes where I don't need to feel pressure all the time. And can I zoom out from the situation, as Zach's saying, false deadlines? Everyone knows that the deadline is coming up, the false deadline. Can you zoom out from it and go, actually, the more important thing has come along and I need to focus on that now. I can put in the background.
Also, can you, as who's the 400-meter runner from America, female who holds the world record?
You're talking about Sydney McLaughlin?
Yeah, Sydney McLaughlin.
400 hurdler.
Yeah, 400 hurdler. She said the other day, Sydney McLaughlin said, they asked her on pressure, how do you feel, being the current world record holder and, being the favourite to win the gold medal? How do you deal with that pressure? And she said, pressure is an illusion. And I think there's this balance of understanding, let's utilize pressure and accept it, but also be able to, pull back from it and go, it's a complete illusion and I don't need to fall to it at the same time.
Well, again, as you're saying, it's back to the zoom out. And, there's two very famous basketball players that both have ideas around pressure or hard, or Michael Jordan's quote is, fear is an illusion. He's a fantastic book that he's written. It's about this thick, and anyone wants to go read it, you definitely should. One of my favorite books. I don't read a lot, but I read that book. And the other one is Damian Lillard. Someone said, what's the pressure like in the NBA finals? And he goes, pressure is a single mum with 2 kids and 2 full-time or 2 jobs trying to make ends meet. And so we sit here in our, in lovely Sydney, Australia, with all the things we have going on, and we can talk about pressure as a tool, but the true essence of pressure is being put in a scenario where you have no other option. And so I think it's like understanding, and can you zoom out from pressure and go, I use it as a tool, it's something that is fantastic, and I can see my goals. Yes, how important are they to me, and can I use that? But, I guess it's then being able to have that ability to use the tool, but then zoom out and go, yeah, it's not so bad. I'm not a single mum with 2 kids and have to work full time just to put food on the table.
And then that just ties in perfectly to the very start of the quote is pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
It's like we're not looking at pressure and going, oh my God, I'm going to crumble. We're going, no, this is a privilege. Let's go get after it. I want to talk a bit more about your story and more specifically, like people are probably listening to this going, these guys are just going to be like gelling back and forth the whole podcast. And this is for everyone listening. You would sit at cafe every single morning, 8 a.m. depot, every single morning and chat for hours all the time, just about random stuff. And that's why I thought this was so awesome to have them on. So it's so cool. But I want to talk about like how important it's been on your journey doing it together. Because, there's a lot of twins. My brother and sister are twins, for example. They don't have a relationship like you guys do. Like you've done like basically everything together. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've lived together. You've done everything, and it's kind of been your life, and we're in this together as a team. Talk to me about the importance of that.
Well, I mean, it's so interesting because as twins, like in high school and stuff, and in primary school, mum and dad were like, we got to make sure they're individuals, because although being twins, you're sort of always grouped together as, there's the Stenmarks or, the twins. But mum and dad were really focused on making sure we had our own identities. But it's been this really interesting thing, and a philosophy for us around it always is we are stronger together than we are apart, but we need to be strong individually. Because I think there are a lot of identical twins who end up only identifying as twins. And I think that can make it hard, because then, we've even found throughout our lives, I might be in a conversation and I'll say we, and it'll be to someone who doesn't know that I'm a twin, and they'll go, who's we?
And I'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm a twin. And then they go, oh, I didn't understand. But I think back to what you were really asking is, we are stronger together than we are apart. We can achieve so much more together, and that is such a strength. And a basketball coach said to us that when we were very young, and it's rung true, but this focus of understanding the yin and yang relationship for us has been so important, because if we were both always just exactly the same all the time, I think it would make it creates friction. So we've had to have this sort of cohesive relationship that allows for that.
We talk a lot about how we've been preparing for marriage our whole lives, because this is a marriage, you know, like hopefully one day we'll make fantastic partners to our partners. But I think that's the funny thing about being a twin is, especially identical twins who do work together, because you're so ingrained in each other's lives, you need to understand each other's highs and lows. You need to understand what the strengths are, what stage of life you're in, and be really open about it. Really open, kind, caring, transparent communication. You know, it sounds very lame because it's like all the things you hear about in, you know, couples therapy and all that kind of stuff. You need to communicate. It's the 3 C's or whatever it is. But it is 100% true that, you know, for us, communication is absolutely paramount. Something we implemented a long time ago was we sit down every Friday and we have a frank discussion. It doesn't have to be abrupt or anything. It's very kind and caring, and say, hey, what's on your mind? Can I do anything better? And he says the same thing, and then we go, cool, these are the things, and we move on, because we realize that in order to not only be cohesive friends, which the funny thing about being twins is you don't choose someone who becomes your best friend. You don't choose them. You go to school, you go off to school, whatever, primary school, and you walk into class and you sit down next to this guy and his name's James or whatever, and then 13 years later you're somehow best friends and going off to uni or Europe or wherever you're going. We were born together. We're womb mates.
Yeah. You're stealing my humor. That's come on. Everyone's going to think you're Jordan. But no, we never made that decision. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to be friends, but it'd be crazy for us not to be friends. We've had so many similar experiences. We're from the same family. We have very similar morals and values. Like, we have very similar likes and dislikes. If I found someone like that at school, they would be my friend. And this person is like that. Anyway, my point being is that the fact that you have to work at it. Like anything in life, it takes a lot of work to have a fantastic, cohesive relationship. And of course, we have our ups and downs. That's part of being human. We, have our down bits, we have our up days, down days, whatever it is. But the point being is that we work at it, we spend a lot of time at it, and we have a huge amount of respect for each other in how we, communicate. So I think, and we've been through a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, through, leaving, because we did all this sport together in high school, playing AFL with GWS when we left. And then we were like, oh, in the off season, we'll just try a bit of modeling. And then all of a sudden, Tom Ford called our agent, and literally like 2 weeks into modeling, after finding photos of us on Tumblr, and said, I want to fly the boys to London and work with them. And then we did
this is also Tom Ford, the designer, not the brand, the actual man himself.
And so we flew to London, and we're 19 at this point. And it was such a whirlwind experience. We go from playing AFL with GWS and studying economics at Sydney University to global campaigns with Ralph Lauren and Calvin Klein and Tom Ford and all these major brands, and in a world that we'd never experienced before. We had no idea. It wasn't like we were like, oh, I want to be a model when I grow up. It was just like, I want to play footy, I want to get my degree, work hard, and then go into this industry, and it's just so different. And so having that experience has been incredible, but it's obviously can be so volatile. You can be this close to a job that changes your whole world, or it's even just the travel around the world. Spending so much time away from your family, but being able to do it together and just maturing together. So it's definitely something you have to work at, and I feel very blessed to have done it together. So.
Yeah, it is massive highs and lows. There's so many things that you want, and being twins, you go through it together. So, people say to us all the time, you're so lucky that you've been able to do this together. Live in New York for 9 years, travel the world. we are so lucky that we could do this crazy and fantastic industry called fashion together, because it is weird and wonderful in so many great ways, but has its highs and lows, and for us to be able to do that together has been pretty phenomenal. But there's definitely been challenging moments, and I think that's to the point that we've had the lows together and we've succeeded together. And we've realized, to Zac's point earlier, we're only as strong as we're stronger together than we are apart. We're only as strong as we are individually. So people used to say to us, "Oh, what happens if we, book Jordan for a job, but we don't book you?" And I would always say to them, "Well, I'd prefer he got the job than some other guy, and he looks like me, so most people will think it's me anyway. So it's a win for the team."
Yeah, I love that. You're saying there about how you've experienced highs and lows. I genuinely feel like the quality of a connection you can have with someone, the depth of that connection is the polarity between how low and how high you've experienced together. Because if you can experience more low and more high together, you've experienced a wider range of stuff and you've been tested in all different ways together. And I think if you can experience that, or they can experience you in a real low state and a real high state, it kind of forces this bond to be way stronger than everyone else. I think you increase the level of respect you have for each other.
There's actually a study they did on companies that survived the global financial crisis. And I think a very similar thing happened during COVID as well. But the businesses that survived the GFC, all their company, not philosophy, but like the culture is what I'm looking for, was 1,000,000 times better than companies that were started after the GFC, because they went through such a difficult period. So what they actually studied this thing of, if you can get through these really difficult periods together, the strength that you come out of it and the respect is just so much greater.
Well, I think it speaks to a little bit of the same concept happens with yourself. If I set myself a goal and I say, for the next month, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to go to the gym and, I'm going to eat healthy. And so I start doing that, and I go really well for a week at doing it. And I get to, let's say, day 8 and I stuff it up. Well, how would I feel? I generally feel, maybe I don't trust myself as much. I set myself a goal and I didn't hit it. So can I trust myself if I set that goal again to do that in 30 days, for another 30 days? Maybe we'll see. And if I tried to set that goal again and I didn't achieve it, I'd probably have less trust because I failed in that moment. Whereas if you're a team, and to the point on the team, if I'm a team and we all set a goal together and we go, we're going to, reach this sales target, and we hit the target together and we go, wow, we've just hit this target. We're all going to go and see the highs and lows, because there would have been days where, God, we're not going to make the target. We don't know if we're going to make it. You all band together. Everyone comes in early, comes in later. They start building trust because they go, when I say I'm going to do something and then they say they're going to do something, we both do it. I can rely on that person. God, they're a brother in arms. That's a kindred spirit. And we go, wow, I can really rely on this person. So I think it comes back to, it's an essence of trust. When things get tough, they're like me. They're of my tribe. And I think if it's not just with yourself on setting goals, but with your team, it is so important to be able to go, okay, we've experienced not just the highs. You see it in all sporting teams. The teams that go from high to low and eventually reach the mountaintop, they are truly, brothers in arms. So,
and then a byproduct of having trust is confidence.
Yes.
And so when you're setting, the commitments you hold to yourself is the example there.
Yeah.
It's like you fail on day 8, your mind beat you.
Yeah.
And that is a shot in the foot for your confidence.
Oh, yeah.
And so like the commitments you hold to yourself, the commitments that you are holding to your team and following through on that is all building trust. But then by doing so, you're building that confidence. I guess it's so important, right?
Reliability, 100%. I love that, the way you've described it, because I feel that so much around building. I was someone who didn't have a lot of confidence growing up. I wish that I had the confidence as a teenager that I did now in my ability, because I'm, as a sportsman,
my biggest issue around my success was confidence. But it was also the thing that drove me the furthest because I was a fear-based motivator. So I would train more or work harder than other people because I was fearful of losing. Now I just need to refine that and go, hang on, actually, I've done all this work. You know, I say I'm going to get up at 5. I went for the run. I did the ball skills. I did all the things. So when I get to the game, it's time to fall upon my practice, as we were saying before. But to your point, building of that confidence is how much do I trust myself, or how much do I trust
repetition? It's so much in the repetition. Like I used to think about, because we got thrown into a career that we knew nothing about, and pardon me, being on live television in front of millions of people, or you know, there are just so many opportunities, or even being on massive sets where we had to, you know, perform tasks that it's not like we trained for them, but we're thrown into this scenario. So we fell back to the preparedness of the situation.
Preparation.
The preparation.
That's why we're twins, you know.
Yeah. He feels my stuff. He's prepared. You fall back to that, and I think you can only really gain confidence from knowing that you did the work. And then you also can't regret what happens, because then you go, well, I did all the work that I could, and this maybe this time it just wasn't meant for me.
I also do want to add to what you were saying around just coming back to the example of the 7th and the 8th day. The reason why I feel like that's so important is because when I call upon myself in the future, so if I say my future family relies on me to turn up to work, and I get a bit tired and a bit run down, and, you know, things are tough, interest rates are through the roof, and my, you know, second child, not that I have kids, is sick, and I'm in this highly pressured situation. And when my family and myself call upon me to do something, am I reliable enough? Have I proven it to myself in the past that, you know, when I asked myself to do something, did I do it? Did I do that 8th and 9th and get to that 30 days? Or did I go, oh, it's too hard, I just can't do it? But when you get faced with that level of adversity and you go, you know what? No, I am going to do this. You go, wow, I'm more than I ever thought I could be. That's unbelievable. And then you go, look at what I just achieved. Look at, like, with yourself, you set a goal to build a podcast. And if you'd not achieved what you've achieved today with this podcast, you might have gone, oh, maybe I don't do a new venture or a new start. But you go, the next thing I go, I'm confident, of course I can. Look what the podcast I've just built. Because when I asked myself, when I had a goal, when I had a dream, and I wanted to do something, I called upon myself to do it, and I was faced some adversity, I did it, as if I'm not going to be confident in that.
And then the thing is, the reason I had so much confidence in the growth of the podcast before I even started it, put it in my bio, said I was a podcast when I had 50 followers on the page, was because of all the stuff I did before that, which then made me go, yeah, of course I can do that. Even the smallest things, like 60% of the reason I get in the ice bath every morning is to say to myself, I've already done something fucking hard today, and I have the confidence in myself that whenever something else hard comes up today, I can beat it. I don't do it because I want to recover my sore hamstrings. like
it's discipline. It's about discipline, and I think that's what we're talking about. It's these disciplines that instill confidence in us, and that means you're reliable to yourself.
And I think actually, to the point of the ice bath, I think this big trend in ice baths is fantastic, and a lot of people are looking at it from recovery, but the amount of people we talk to about ice baths, from my perspective, it's more of a mental thing. It's more of that ability, can I call upon myself to do something really difficult that in this moment I don't want to do, or in the moment when I'm sitting in there and I've said I'm doing 3 minutes and I'm at the 1 minute 30 and going, I can't do another minute 30. Then you go, yes, I can. And then when you get to 3 minutes and you say, I'll do another. And you go, far out, I'm more than I thought I could be. And that's that to me
it's priceless.
You can't gain that anywhere else.
They say that in runners. They did a study on which athletes had the best mental toughness. And they said that long distance runners have that ability over any other sport because of that idea of you're running and you're pushing so hard, and you're halfway through a marathon and you're like, I can't keep doing this. And you go, just one more step. You got this, just one more step. And that's what they found in the study, which I think maybe that's why we've got this great trend now of people running more. And I think obviously all the hormonal benefits, but it's got, it's really cool to see. Yeah. It's actually the psychological benefits that I think is really cool.
And I don't think people go into it knowing that though.
No.
It's like, oh, this is cool, let's do it. Or like, oh, I have a runner's high. They don't think why. It's just like, I have a runner's high. I want to talk about sports a bit. You guys keep bringing up the fact that you were athletes as a kid. I'd be lying if I didn't know any of your story, but I want to go back to childhood and your upbringing and how that was, and talk to me about what you guys were doing. And then I want to tie into, you were saying a big thing for you was you weren't very confident when you were a kid, and I want to talk about it too. But let's first just talk about your childhood.
Yeah, so we grew up in a really sporty family. Our grandfather was a Wallaby scratch golfer, national hurtler, Australian level cricketer. Am I missing anything else? Oh, I don't know, just a freak of nature.
That's enough. That's enough.
Dad, really good rower, rugby player, all that sort of stuff.
Mum, don't forget about mum.
Oh yeah, mum.
Mum, state backstroker, hurdler. So yeah.
Thanks for filling Zac in. It's great.
That's why there's two of us. I've got to keep getting him. Yeah.
One half the brain, the other half. And so sport was a big part of our identity. We just loved playing sport, and something that I've always wished is I had more time to play more sports as a kid. But we were running, swimming, playing basketball, and also playing AFL. We picked up AFL later in life, but it was funny because we were dyslexic kids, so all through primary school and high school.
Still dyslexic.
Well, yeah, that's true. It was quite an interesting thing for us because we were bullied pretty heavily for being dyslexic in school. But then we're also playing sport with a lot of the guys that bullied us about this, about being dyslexic. And I think sport, was so fundamental to us because it was A, something we excelled at, but B, it taught us so many disciplines. And if you wanted to be really successful, you had to work really hard. And it's been so interesting as well for us in a career like fashion, which is very subjective and very, that it's not always like no matter how hard you work, you'll get the job. And so that was something, a really big learning for us, going from being like, well, if I just train as much as I can, I can get to being the fastest or being the best shooter or whatever that is. That didn't apply in our career at the start anyway.
I learned something new just now.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Let's go back to when you were just saying how you've got bullied in school and you were dyslexic. We would hang out every single day, and I didn't even know this, so I feel bad. But
no.
What sort of impact does that play as a kid? Because when I look at you guys, and I'm sure most people look at you online as these gorgeous stallion 10 out of 10 males that just have everything going for them, even when you're talking about how athletic you are and everything is so perfect. You're kind of one of those guys that's a jack of all trades. And then you tell me this.
No, sure. Sorry.
And then you tell me this. Talk to me about the impact that had for you guys as kids being bullied at school.
I think it was really difficult because you want to fit in, right? And I think there was a combination of factors that made it probably worse, in the sense that we were big kids, athletic, all that sort of stuff. And I always go back to trying to understand why people were like that. And I think it made us hyper analytical, because we would get bullied and we'd be at school and we'd be like, I don't want to be here. And that was awful, because you want to enjoy the experience. But then, as an example, when a teacher would say, oh, can you read in class? And everyone's going around, reading the textbook, and each person's going, I'm sitting there, and I know Jordan did the same thing, reading counting each person and knowing, oh, okay, I've got to read this paragraph. I'm going to read it as many times as I possibly can until I can memorize it, till they get to me. And it just created this pressure all the time. And it was terror. Yeah, it was terror. And I subsequently learnt that it's created a bit of a perfectionism in me. And I was laughing about this because someone said to me, oh, you're a perfectionist. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then they were like, I was like, oh, I'll never be perfect. They're like, that's what a perfectionist would say. And it made us, the perfectionism came from this, well, if I'm perfect, then no one can make me feel small. And that was, look, I'm very grateful because it definitely helped me become the person I am, and I wouldn't change it. It wasn't fun, but it was so valuable. I think it gave me so much more empathy for so many other people. It made me also just very, I guess, clear on, well, this is who I am and who I'm going to be, and I want to be kind, caring individual all the time, and try and inspire other people. That is, I think, for both of us, something that we really want to do more of, even now, is hopefully with this inspire someone to know that these difficult things of being bullied or whatever, they don't define you in the negative way. They can actually, strengthen you as a human. So
I think the interesting thing about us being bullied is, to your point, most people go, I don't believe you didn't get bullied. Like, to your, like, if I'm looking at it, stepping away from myself, people look at us as tall sportsmen that, we're confident. We love having a chat to people, open, friendly. But, most days for me going to school was either tears or I don't want to go, or I'm going to figure out how to get there. Because to Zac's point, to sit there in a class where reading was not only terrifying because of wanting to fit in, but then people poking fun at the fact that you can't read by either reading over the top you, behind you, and whispering in your ear the words that you can't read, or people
literally
then
calling
giving
you retarded, which is on a consistent basis. It was just being consistently referred to as stupid all the time. So it defines
I think
you as
something that we always, I'll come to the confidence part that we were talking about before, but it took me to about 25 to think I had some level of intelligence. Like I thought I was below the mean for majority of my life, and then getting to 25 and went, and going, actually, I have some intelligence. I'm actually a reasonably intelligent human being. I'm not Einstein, but I have something to add. I have some value. I have analytical ability. I have an ability to, consume information and then actually retain it, interpret it, and teach other people. And I never thought that was something I could do. And so it's taken me, I'm now 32, I'm at 7 years later to actually go, hang on, yeah, I actually have value. And so to be that person and to grow up, and I think a lot of the bullying stuff played on the confidence, because for me, sport was the place I felt safe. But to Zac's point, we became perfectionists for this exact reason, is if I was perfect, no one could get me, because I always felt under fire. So in sport, we always felt we had to be perfect, but that plays in your confidence because no one is perfect in sport. Michael Jordan, talks about the number of shots that he missed over his career. Steph Curry talks about the number of threes that he missed. Tiger Woods, one of the greatest. Federer just did a speech. 56% of career points he won, which is just ridiculous.
He's I would say the GOAT of tennis. And sorry, Novak. I mean, I think you're a fantastic tennis player, but the composure and the grace in which he plays tennis, that is something to aspire to be. He is a GOAT in the whole sense of a word. And so people like that, and showing that only 54% of their 54% of their entire professional tennis career was winners or points they won. And you go, I was thinking that I had to never fuck up. I had to be perfect, otherwise I was never going to achieve. And it's like, actually, we're going to fail so many times, and that's okay. That's where we learn so much, and you keep growing from those failures. But
it takes a long time to get there. Like, I think, our dad always says to us, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and that's life's journey. And just because we mature we grow up physically doesn't mean emotionally we grow up in areas that we need to. It took a long time to get to a place where I felt confident and I knew that hey, what I'm doing is correct, and to a point of confidence, had to keep putting myself in positions where I felt pressure and going, hang on, this is what I did.
And that's
a
never
lot
going
of
to
the time,
change either.
yeah.
Like I think people think you get to this place and then you're like, that's it. And I got there. It's like, actually, for literally, hopefully we'll live to 100 because doing the healthy stuff. But who knows if we have that time. But if we're not learning all the time and questioning and developing, you never get to a place where you're like, oh, I've actually got it. I'm 100% have it. The whole thing, it's perfect. And if you did, I think you're missing something. So that was a learning again, that this perfectionism came from being bullied, but this analytical nature came from it as well. But as I've got older, I've realized it's like, I've got to really embrace all the imperfections that I have and know that I'm always continually learning and it will never be perfect. And that is more than okay.
Yeah, it's the gratitude behind a lot of it as well. You can go through all that and look for the perfection and analyze and all this kind of stuff, but really you go, okay, well, I'm going to be grateful. I'll say this every day for the rest of my life. I'm so grateful that I experienced that level of adversity, because to your exact point when you brought this up, we had a lot of things that we had going for us, and to being dyslexic and being bullied is the best thing that ever happened to me. Because as Zac said before, we already did have empathy, and we come from a really nice family, but it increased the level of empathy. It made us more analytical around how we treat people, the effect we have on the people around us. It really made us go, okay, well, let's work hard for things, and proved that, yes, I couldn't read at the same age as my peers. So I felt like in our class, I couldn't spell at the same level as my peers, but I had really good comprehension. And let's lean towards that stuff. And so we worked our asses off at the things that we could be good at. So create a level of work ethic that we've now used in our later life and our career to get us to a place where we go, most people at our 5 and 10 year reunion just went, we can't believe what you've achieved. And we were just going like, yeah, I don't feel like the same person I was when I left school at 18. And to the point, thank you for the adversity.
Yeah, you leaned into your strengths, but then growth and comfort never coexist. And so you want to grow, you need to be uncomfortable. I want to go back to when you were first explaining how you'd been bullied. You butted in and said it was terror. Like, talk to me about what you actually mean by that. And if you were to put yourself back in the shoes of that kid when you're going to school crying and you're going, fuck, what am I going to have to get myself into today? I don't want to have to read. And you're really upset as a little kid. Like, talk to me about those times.
Yeah, the terror aspect is the vision I have is sitting in primary school, and as Zac very well articulated, was counting the number of kids till I had to read, knowing the bullies that were behind me, and going, and just how am I gonna either be self-deprecating out of this, or how am I going to find a way to figure out what these words say in order for me to survive this reading time.
And we're not saying that this is the most traumatic thing that's ever happened in the world, but as a child, being ostracized from your peers and then also ending up in fights, ending up in just like the exclusion, even just the constant sort of like the water on the stone slowly breaks it down, of being the butt of all the jokes, or if, things like having your own name, like being a Stenmark, be a negative connotation to being, slow or stupid or whatever. Those things weren't great. And again, I don't want to have anyone misconstrue. Like, we've had so much privilege and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that this was we're in we live in a war-torn country or anything like that. This is not the same, but from a growth development standpoint, it definitely was really challenging and was something that we hated it, but at the same time, we're now very grateful because that adversity has molded us.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would feel like you're trapped because you're at a place that you don't want to be in, but you have no other option but to be there.
And exactly, because you're sitting there in the class, you have to be there. And on top of that, the terror is going, I'm in this situation it's not something I can change. I can't go, oh, no, I'll just be better. Or, maybe you're being bullied because let's just say maybe you're a bit loud or you're a bit annoying or whatever it is. Kids get that way. They're understanding different social structures and how they fit in. We literally could not change this thing as much as we tried. We did extra reading classes for years. We had extra homework. We
tutors,
everything. We could not change this as much as we tried. And so for us sitting there, you articulated really, we were trapped in how do I get out of this scenario? And I can't. So I just have to go through it. And so that's when you sit there and you go, okay, well, what's my defense mechanism? How do I survive in this scenario? And some kids, they go, okay, I'm going to do the class clown. Some kids go, I'm just going to sit and be shy and retiring. One thing our parents has always said to us is, you guys never stopped trying. And I think that was something our parents instilled in us always was, we're tenacious. We never give up. We put our best foot forward. And that was one thing that they said, you might be the worst in the class, but you show up there, you put a smile on your face and you have a go. That's all you can do is have a go.
And they've, I always bring up studies because I just find them really interesting. They did a study in kids and I believe Andrew Huberman talked about this. They got one group and applauded them just on effort. So, well done, you tried so hard. The other group was, wow, you're so intelligent. And they tested the two groups. And the group that was applauded for their effort, all their scores went up. And the group that was applauded for their intelligence, they either stayed the same, got a moderately bit better, but predominantly actually went down. And I think that's a really important thing to think about, and something that our parents subconsciously did for us was always applauded effort, because you can always change, you can always be improving on your effort, trying harder and working harder, but you're sort of given your intelligence to a level, you can build it, but it's not something that as quantifiable as like I did my best today.
Outputs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's the third group of people that get told that you're shit at this, you're horrible at this, and you shouldn't be doing this. Why are you doing this? And then look at those scores.
Yeah.
Plummeting.
Oh, exactly.
Because now they're in their head and they've like labeled themselves as bad at maths.
Yep.
Or bad at reading. And
then you
obviously
define.
get negative reinforcing, which then that is like you get people telling you that you're bad and nonstop again, and then you go down these little spirals. And it's a never-ending kind of loop. Just before we conclude out this little segment, I'm really intrigued if you were looking back at that time, because I think there's people that are suffering to those sorts of things, getting picked on, even at the ages of 40, 50, 60. They're battling this sort of adversity from people and not fitting in from their crowd. If you were looking back at those things and you're like, oh, if you could just tell that kid some words, like what would be some things that you would tell him in terms of like, I don't know, getting through this?
For me, it would be find out what are the things you can do for you and that are really important to you. Focus on those things and you will find your crowd, you'll find your people, because and I think you've written this down, but what is right for you will come to you is a quote that really resonates for me. And I found this actually in relationships. I learned it from a relationship. I was in this shitty relationship, and the girl I was with actually, she had a bit of a nature of putting me down and that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, I really want to make it work. Like I see redeeming qualities, all this sort of stuff. And then I actually came to this conclusion. I was like, oh, wait, hold on. This is not right for me. This situation is not right for me. It's not. And it's funny when you learn to let these ties go that we think we should have, all of a sudden, and we stick on our path, that can make it easier to obviously get out of some of the awful things that are in our way. And I think, being really true to yourself is so important on that thing, because then all the negative stuff that comes to you from these people, it doesn't phase you.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't care because you're on your path. So getting grounded in that. So I think for me as a little kid, if it had been just stick to your path and trust in your values. Obviously, as a little kid, that's really hard to say, but maybe as an adult, focusing on those things that can ground me. Even today, it's a really important thing for me, finding the things that ground me, because it's my life, you know? And if those things are important to me, then they're important to me. They don't have to be important to others.
My Zac articulated really well, but my ad would be, it's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of the people that are causing the issue. Because the guys that bullied me were the ones that they had issue with me. I didn't have issue with them. You know, it was a deficient that they went, okay, maybe it was a jealousy or something. And it's not saying then to go back and lash out and say you're jealous. Maybe there's something that maybe they really wanted to be. They wanted to be really great sports people, and they really wanted to be good at that. And I got gifted that. You know, I would have killed to be able to read, but at the same time, you go, okay, I take a step back, helicopter view, and go, as Zac was saying, it's empathy. Going, actually, you know what? It's not a reflection of me. I am good or bad or amazing or really bad at whatever this is. It doesn't matter. It's like people who go surfing for the first time. The first time I went surfing, I was so bad at it, like so bad. And if someone walked up to me on the beach and goes, "You are such a bad surfer, stop surfing," I'd go, that clearly has nothing to do with me because I don't know you. Or if someone came up to me and said, "Mate, that's awesome how you got out there and you had a go. That's fantastic. Is it your first time surfing?" I'd go, "Yeah, it was my first time surfing." And they go, "That's awesome. Good on you for being out there." I'd go, "Oh, how good does that make me feel?" They are probably a person that goes, "I've been through that. I went through surfing. I needed someone to lift me up." And they're a great bloke. Not to say that the person that put me down is a bad person. It's just a reflection of the experiences they've had and how they've dealt with it. When we learn a lot, you look at the guys that we went through that with, and then as an adult, I'm going, oh, they had maybe a broken family or they had something else going on, and that thing weighed them down so much that their response was maybe to pick on us and get people to laugh so they felt connected. You know, so again, as Jordan's saying, that is a reflection of their situation, not of the person you are. So as long as you have this belief in the person you are, that you're kind, and as we went back to these disciplines in your life, the thoughts of these other people shouldn't matter to you because you are solid in who you are. Yeah. Easier said than done.
Definitely. But then also you don't know any better back when you're a little kid too. And when you look back at it, you go, fuck, none of that shit mattered. Like none of the shit matters. And it's the same with where we are now. We're going to look back in 5 years' time and go, none of that shit we were complaining about, using all of our energy on, matters. It doesn't.
It doesn't at all.
And so then when you can kind of sweat the small stuff in terms of the little things that actually make you better, but then don't sweat the small stuff, all the shit that people focus on so much that just drains all of their mental battery for the day without leaving any room to actually grow. If you don't focus on those things and realize that that's not going to help you in any way, shape or form, there's like this freeing essence that comes with that where you can just kind of drop this backpack off and you feel so much more lighter. And you guys, obviously hindsight's a beautiful thing, but when you look back at it and go, you said earlier, I wouldn't change that. It's helped me shape me to who I am now. But equally, back then, I'd be like, if I was in that shoes now, or I got faced with the same feeling now, I could easily just go, not let it phase me as much because you've obviously got more perspective. You've been through it. You keep bringing up your family and you keep talking about your dad specifically. And I really want to talk about the role that he's played on you and your upbringing. You keep reminding us of your dad with sports, with life, with business. Talk to me about the impact your dad has had on you and what you've learned from him.
Yeah, I would say, I won't speak for Zac, but I know he feels the same. My relationship with my family is my most treasured thing in my life. And my relationship with my father is that as well. He had a heart attack when we were in year 8, and so we almost lost him. And it brought us very quickly to what's important in life. And my relationship with my father, he's one of my best friends, and the impact he's had on my life is I wouldn't be the same person. I couldn't speak more highly about a man. If the greatest compliment I could ever be given is, and people have said this to me in the past, and it is the greatest thing people can say to me, is, wow, you're so much like your father. And I know he's our father and we are biased towards that, but what he's given us from, let's just say, he's worked very hard. Him and our mum provide very safe, fantastic, loving environment for us to go out and try and do our utmost in our careers and our lives. But really it was, regardless of what they provided us, as a friend and a role model of a man, I just couldn't ask for more. Someone that can understand the delineation between being a father and being a friend and being a role model. It is so unique. And the morals and values he's taught us, the example he's given us as how to be a partner to our mother, how to be a father, and how to treat people in business. If I could
and
even,
in life.
yeah, and if I could, do 10% of that, I would feel like I've achieved something, because it's a privilege to be his son. I really have to say that. I hope it doesn't sound too drastic, but I really feel that way.
I think when we talk about all this bullying and all that sort of stuff, things that stick out even as a kid, firstly, the way in which he always approached it with us was so important. The way he advised us on, he spoke to us rather than just like kids as young men. He really focused on that and was like, think about, it doesn't make it easier, but try and be in their shoes and think about what they're experiencing. And he would also try and give us tactics that weren't just like, oh, if they hit you, hit them back. Or, it was very like, try and create, be diplomatic in your circumstances, try and be the bigger person. And not it sounds silly, but I think those things of being treated like an adult actually made those experiences, even though they were really difficult, going, I'm getting respect from someone who has great respect and he knows how to handle these things. Another thing that really comes to mind is I remember I once just snapped, and after years of being bullied, and I got this detention because I hit a kid. And instead of saying to me, I can't believe you did that, it's so disgusting, he went, I totally understand why that happened. And he went to the school and the parents were saying, he needs to be suspended. And he stood up for me and he said, your son has been bullying my son for better part of 5 years, and we've asked the school and blah, blah, blah to do all this stuff and nothing happened. And we've worked on it. And to have someone who had your back and who stood up for you, so grateful for that as well, but did it in a very considered manner and always respectful of the parents. He wasn't rude or angry, or even to the kid, he wasn't. He was so understanding. And I think as a role model, you just can't ask for anything more than that, to have someone who treats every human being with the exact same respect. And it's so amazing to see. He's always been so considered with everyone in every situation. I've never seen him lose his cool. Our parents have that exact relationship where they're so communicative, and it's I echo Jordan's words.
Yeah, I'm sensing he's very, I've only met your dad once in passing, but I'm sensing he's very stoic. He's very calm in the chaos.
He's extremely stoic.
And when you're explaining that, it's like he's got no ego. It's not in the way of his decisions. And he's very like calm in the chaos, and he can handle situations. And to be honest, obviously your dad's a very successful businessman. And through that journey, you're kind of forced to become stoic and calm in the chaos, because you've got to manage so many expectations of people. You've got to manage so many shit times, so many hard times, so many in the red times that you don't really know what's going on, and you still got to figure it out and act like everything's all good.
Well, and he's a guy who came from, he had $12 in his bank account when he was like 23 years old.
Leaving a country town called Wagga Wagga, going to UTS, great university, doing a full-time job, doing part-time uni, and living in a bed sit, if people know what that is, which is essentially your feet in the kitchen and your head in the bedroom. And
head in the toilet.
And sharing a shower with the rest of the people. And, you know, there's lots of people. He wasn't the most, you know,
downtrodden
in any way, but he said he wanted to change the nexus of his life. He wanted to leave the country, he wanted to do something with his life. He knew that he had more to give, and he went, I'm going to change the nexus. Because both our grandfather and his grandfather were both broke. And sadly for my grandfather, who there was an accounting issue where the accountant laundered a lot of accountants in the Riverina, dentists in the Riverina's money. And so our grandparents didn't have a lot of money. So he put our grandparents on his back and he supported them financially. And he's just someone who's taken on so much with a smile and, as you say, in a stoic perspective. But not all people choose that perspective. You have successful business people that choose the, you know, rule with an iron fist. And I think that's the one thing that I find most remarkable about him is through adversity, he continues to have this stoic approach of, okay, I'm cool, calm, collected, and can I see the bigger picture? And no, he's not perfect in any way, shape or form. You know, he definitely, and he'll admit that, he'll sit right here and say, these will be his words verbatim, I'm 67 and I'm still learning. And so, you know, to have someone that is like that and has had that example, has not come from a lot, but, you know, had a good education and really, you know, gone about, okay, how do I make the most out of my existence? But then also, he's always said to us, in business, you want to make decisions and treat people, but really make decisions in a legal, ethical, and responsible way and respectful way. And
that's all you have at the end of the day, like who you are. Like we can all try and be as successful as we want, make money, buy watches, cars, things, whatever, but you don't take any of it with you. So it's really, what did people think of me as a person? And not the broader community of all the people around the world. It is like my people around me. What did they say? Like, how did I...
your reputation.
Yeah, but how did I affect my community? And I think even you doing this podcast, if you help just one person, you're helping so many more people than that. But the fact is, people go, wow, he shared information, he helped people and educated. That's a great thing. And that's leaving a legacy. And I think, you know, our dad has done a great thing by helping his community so much. And that's, I think, what it's really about.
You know what else it does, though, when you make an impact? It's essentially a forever inspiration snowball that stands the test of time. It leaves a footprint on, like, our generation, our children's generation, their children's generation and beyond. Because what happens is you inspire someone, they let you know that you've inspired them. You get inspired because you've inspired them. So then you feel called to inspire more. And now that we have social media and stuff where it's online and it's timeless, if you're sharing lessons and value that are timeless lessons, or even not timeless, but they can spark inspiration in someone else, you're creating this snowball. And I think being that spark just to light that ball and to get it rolling is so powerful. And it's like your dad's done that. He's changed the nexus and really, you know, gone against the grain, I guess you could say, and wanted more for the first time in maybe a family tree and made that move. And then if someone else can do that and pass it on, it just keeps going on and on and on.
But to your point, the inspirational, the monumental effort it takes to change the nexus. My dad talks about this example of, if in his case, it's the cruise liner, massive boat. In order to change the course, the degrees to move that wheel to take it from, say, you know, heading in this direction to heading left to heading right is so big, it's so hard. And so I think, you know, we definitely have people along our way that inspire us. But in order to change the nexus, you have to do something really big and really drastic, and it takes a massive, massive amount of effort, discipline,
but it's the small things. Yeah. That's the thing. It's all the small things. It's not one big thing that turns the boat. It's all the bits, the mechanisms, the people, everything that changes the course. And I think people can find this idea of changing it insurmountable, when in actual fact it is literally one step at a time, and you be just the consistent person and that's how you get there. It's not, oh, I do, you don't get fit by, sprinting as hard as you can once a week. You get it by all the tiny things, by showing up to the gym and not having perfect gym sessions, but still showing up every day.
But you know what it is though as well is people aren't exposed to another life, and a lot of the time, so they don't believe. You need to see it to believe it. So if you're not exposed to anything, sometimes it's just a tiny little bit, but when you get exposed to it, then you go, oh shit, I want that, and then it sparks this light in you to keep going. But then also, it's like, when you're in this family of people and that it's this way or no other way and this is life and this is how it is, of course it's hard. Like it's very hard to kind of go against that.
Go against the
and go
grain.
against your tribe.
Yeah.
And you're going to get judged in the short term, but then in the long term they praise you and say, I knew you were going to do amazing things. And that's just how it works.
But sometimes they don't. There's a great book, a book my dad suggests. He actually read it when their whole rowing crew had to read it. It's called Jonathan Livingston's Seagull. It's about a seagull. It sounds crazy. It's about a seagull that goes against the natural ways of seagulls, and he dreams that he can fly like an eagle. And the whole concept is that he can push his limits and push his limits and push his limits, and even the seagulls won't even notice. And sometimes people may not even notice. They may dislike you for it thoroughly. And I think the point is, you were talking about the ripple effect, the drop that can have the ripple effect on so many other people. Well, then understanding the ripple effect and understanding that you can. I imagine there was people along your journey of starting this podcast that inspired you to get to this place, to have your ripple effect that can then, the ripple effect of eternity, of what, as you're saying, the snowball effect. It does take that, it's amazing where you get to once you have that one person. And I bet you'll look back in 10, 15 years with extremely successful podcasting. You might read in a diary that you were inspired by Stephen Bartlett or Joe Rogan or whoever it was to start this podcast. And you go, oh yeah, far out.
That was the person more than that too. And it'll just be one of those things where you just keep going and it goes into something that you can never expect. Just before you were saying, Zac, that it's all you have is when you were talking about yourself. I really want to tie that into just like this, throw the question around to everyone, but like you're saying it's all you have. It's like the word, the who you are is all you have. Like in your eyes, when you've obviously had a really successful career so far, there's so many things that we haven't even scratched the surface of what you're doing with your companies, the dreamers that you're wearing, Jordan, on your neck there. But like, what do you think, as you sit in this chair now, like what do you think truly matters in life? Like when you were to look at everything in your life right now and you said, it's not about the fancy watches, it's not about all this stuff. Like what do you think actually matters?
I think what really matters is people make up life. We're not lone beings. We're very communal beings. And the time with people, like people talk about it all the time. Time is the only commodity that really matters. So how you choose to spend that time and who you choose to spend the time with is so important. Because at the end of the day, like we have our amount of time. It might be, if we get 100 years, that's amazing. Some people don't get that. And so it's understanding the fact that, okay, what I do with this time and the people that make up that time is really important. So the things that bring you joy and the love you experience will occur because of those people. So for me, it's like filtering out all the people that don't align with my morals and values of how I want to live, because I want to focus on the people that really matter.
Connection.
Yeah, human connection is everything that matters, because otherwise, like all this stuff is so nice, but they're things. And you're allowed to like them as well. Like I went through a period where I was like, oh, I can't like any nice things and whatever because that's vacuous, whatever. You're allowed to enjoy the beautiful creations that we've made as humans and all that sort of stuff. I think it's been demonized to like, if you like fast cars, work hard, you deserve fast car. Or if you like a nice watch, whatever.
Go get it.
Yeah, go and get it. It doesn't define you. The relationships are what define you. Like they always talk about, oh, the people you have around you is the summation of who you are. And I think that's so true. So for me, it's love and human connection that make life really worth living.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that.
It's hard to beat that statement of love and human connection.
Well, and human connection comes from experience. You do so many things. It's like I would say this all the time. We would travel around the world to these hotels and we'd be by ourselves, right? And we'd go to these, we'd be put up in the most amazing, I don't know, whatever, Four Seasons or whatever. And I'd go, oh, I wish I had someone to share this with. And yeah, we could share it together, but also like a partner as well. Like a life partner, and choosing your life partner is so important. Who do you want to share your life with? Because you go, oh, do you remember that time that we did X? And it's like, for me, it really taught me that it's like those experiences of going diving in a certain place or seeing whale sharks or I don't know, whatever, hiking a thing. It's awesome when you do it with yourself, but how good is it when you do it with someone you love?
And it's like even when those things around when people say like whenever you're taking a photo, don't just take a photo of the meal, take a photo of the meal with the person that you're eating it with. And I noticed when you like even with you guys and when I was living in Sydney, we were hanging out a lot. It's like your circle's so tight, but you guys do everything together. It's like we just did you just do everything together, and it's being able to cull all the people that aren't serving you. You want people that are energizing you, making you want to run on a treadmill, not sit on the couch, and finding that crew and really nurturing those relationships. If we can like master that, because you said obviously the only commodity we have is time, but it's what we do in that time that actually matters. Like the people we spend it with, the places we spend it in, like those times, the polarity between the good and the bad, making sure that we're experiencing all of that with those people that we care about. Like that's the shit that actually matters.
100%, because if you think about, it was probably out of the 52 weekends that we had last year, how many weekends do you remember we sat on the couch? I probably couldn't tell you what I did. I probably sat on the couch. But I can tell you about the time when I went to the figure eight pools and we went down there and they were weird and funny and the thing happened. This guy surprised us. I can tell you that whole story.
And you bought a bag of avocado chips.
Yeah, exactly. I did. Boulder, hit us up. But no, there's honestly like the adventures are made by the people who are there. And to add to the point on connection, I do think the family we choose, and we all get given a family, which is fantastic. Some people are lucky enough to have a great family. Some people have a different. We are born into some element of family, I guess, but it's then what we choose and how we choose to spend that time and what we do with those people. I think more and more as social media continues to come to the forefront and people consume media and have their device more attached to their hip as mine sits in my pocket. How do we create times in which we forget about the future and the past and be present in the moment of the people that we're with? My example would be every Monday night as a family, we created this thing. We call it Prawn Night. It's a ridiculous name because it started with a prawn dish and now we have all the different kinds of meals, whatever it is, chicken, which we call prawn of the field, or prawn of the barnyard, which is beef, or whatever it is. But the point is having those things you do consistently that you put into your routine that are moments that consistently remind you and push you towards being grateful and spending time with these people. Because we all get really busy and we all have lots of things that seem more important than the things that aren't, that we have previously claimed are the most important things in life. We all say our family and our friends are really important to us, but do we actually spend time with them?
Once they're gone,
they're gone.
You're going to wish for a lot more time with them. So, like maybe it is going, oh, I could go on all these other things. Or my mum actually really wants to grab coffee. I should grab, like if you're close with your mum, go and have coffee with her. Like, because when your mum's gone, you're going to be like, holy shit, I wish I had more coffees with my mum, or I wish we went to the markets together more, or we did, you know what I mean? Like it's those things and, not taking for granted the people that are consistent in your world and thinking there's another new shiny friend over there. It's like, oh, that person's been there always, no matter what. And that is an amazing friend, amazing person who you go, oh, if they were gone, I wish I had more time.
to the point of something I did when I was in a period of where I was feeling down, and I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I had, I was more down. I had depressive kind of feelings, but wasn't depressed. We all experience that. I think that's just it's a given. I found a really important thing was acknowledge and really put your focus and energy into the person that's in front of you, even if they're not your friends and family, and someone comes to talk to you and gives you their time. I think acknowledging that person, not picking up your phone and going, this is more important, or, I'm going to just spend time on my phone because I don't acknowledge the person in front of you. You don't know what you're going to learn from that person in front of you. You don't know how you're going to affect their life. A smile, a hey, how you going? How is your day? And I actually care.
Everyone
that
has
can
a
change
story.
everyone has a story. And that, I think the respect for every being on this planet, we could use a lot more of on this. Like, we could use a lot more of that every day. People just going, I'm going to respect the people around me, the environment around me, and people that I interact with. Likes, dislikes, differences, whatever it is.
Just because someone has a different opinion to you and you don't like it doesn't mean we get to disrespect it. Like, it might not be right to you, but like, you can learn so much from so many people all the time. And I think it's so right. Like a guy said to us once, everybody has a story. They've lived an entire life. Like, say they've been around for 40 years. There's definitely going to be things that you're going to be able to learn from them, even if you don't think it is. And even if it's going, oh, actually, I don't agree with that and I wouldn't want to do that, it helps solidify other things for you. So engaging with people, you can learn so much.
So I think it comes back to respect.
And you guys practice that too, though. And this is something that I've learnt from you, is you just give everyone the time of day because you don't know who they are. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know how you can help them and you don't know how they can help you. And I think being that sponge with people that you meet is always, and then it comes back to that next level of depth, which you guys also do is how you will be able to identify their character quite quickly and then hone in if you genuinely feel like you can get something out of it as well, or it's going to be even better.
Or if we can do something to help them, like you're saying with inspiring, it's also just one of those things of like, pay it forward.
Yeah.
Maybe I can just like, it's so funny you have people, and someone said to me the other day, I really want to work with this person. And I was like, oh, I actually know that person. Do you want me to connect you guys? And they're like, oh yeah, I'd love that. It'd be great. Like, can I do anything? No, it's fine. Like, I just would love to help you. If someone did that for me, I'd be stoked. So why can't I do that for other people? If I can do just a small thing that might change their world, how cool would that be?
And then follow through on it. And then you're remembered for that. We could talk for hours.
we
literally have. We could talk for hours. I've definitely got to wrap this up. We're definitely going to need to do a part 2 at some point. I just really want to commend both of you guys. I miss hanging out with you because you're just so awesome. And thank you so much for opening up. Thanks for sharing all the stuff you did today. And I just really appreciate you coming on board. I think for me, when I look back at my time in Sydney, I found myself, and we've spoken about this a lot, like I found myself struggling to find that tribe and hopping around a little bit and seeing the next shiny person and hanging out left, right and center. And you guys were always there to come back to talk to. And just that good quality people, can't say a bad thing about you. And I just want to commend you for everything that you're doing, all the success you guys have had and going to have. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure, and it's great what you're doing and inspiring people. So we feel blessed that you asked us to come on.
Privilege, and congrats on the show, dude. Honestly, it's awesome to see, when we first met you to what you've built now. It's we feel honored to be part of the journey. So thank you.
Thank you so much,
thank
guys.
You, my friend.
And if you guys have made it to the end, thank you so much for tuning in. How cool are these guys? I'll leave all of their details in the show notes in the description below. It's Jordan and Zac on Instagram is where you can find them as well. But thank you so much. If you've made it to the end, please leave a review on Spotify or Apple, or hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Helps the show grow, helps us keep getting amazing guests just like these two back on the show. We're signing out for this week, but I'll see you guys next week.